start getting broken, you start questioning your fate. I have a voice that is my savior, hates to love and loves to hate. I have a voice that has the knowledge and the power to rule your fate. I hear voices crying, I see heroes dying, I taste blood that's drying, I feel tension rising. I hear voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me, they talk to me, they tell me things that I will do, they show me things I'll do to you, they talk to me.
And welcome back to an episode of Ministry of Truth. I am your only host on this show. Got a little bit for you today, not really that much. Just going to talk about some things that happened, in the past 24 to 48 hours, as well as something that happened last week, I believe. Had a lot to... Alright, come on, Rumble. I think that's right. Give me a second. Rumble is kind of ass backwards right now. That's weird. Yo, I didn't change the name of the video, did I? Oh well. You live, you learn. Live, you lear. Okay, now it's being dumb. Anyway, before we get that started, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I got a little bit to talk to you today. The news. Some police chases. Not police chase, police video of a very disturbed person. But before we get into that start, obviously, we're going to start off with a music video because it's just how it works here. Just how it works here. If you don't like it, that sucks for you because I ain't changing. I ain't changing for no one. No one. Anyway, let's get into this song. I'm not going to tell you to go get you some coffee, get you something to eat because, well, that's ridiculous because you're all adults. Right? I hope so. Anyway, I'll see y'all in a minute once I get this thing. I did not set it up. Man, I'm slacking today. Get it? Slack? No? Yeah, I didn't think so. Alright, let's do this.
Must be some kind of way out of here, said the joker to the thief. There's too much confusion, I can't get no relief. Businessman there, drink my wine. Plowman, dig my earth. None will ever own the mine. Nobody of it is worth. Hey, no reason to get excited. The thief kindly spoke. There are many here among us who feel that life is but a joke. But you and I, we've been through that, and this is not our fate. So let us start talking falsely now. The hour's getting late. Hey!
Anyway, that's a good little throwback. For a lot of us, I believe he was 101st Airborne Infantry, Air Assault. Well, they used to be Airborne Infantry back in World War II. Now they're Air Assault, which, yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, those of you who don't know, yesterday a strike started in New York City. I don't remember if I went over this yesterday or not, but 15,000 nurses yesterday decided, you know what? I think we're not getting paid enough and we're not getting better health care. It's weird because we are the healthcare providers. Well, New York City, 15,000 was yesterday. I wonder how many more are going to join from 3 of the major hospitals in New York City.
All right, everybody, the largest nurses' strike in New York history is happening as we speak. And hospitals across the country are strapped after nearly 15,000 nurses just walked off the job. Take a look.
Oh, they don't really have their own chance. They just steal it from everybody else. Hey,
Yes,
hey.
and here they are. They
Ho,
are
ho.
on the picket lines after contract negotiations broke down. The sticking points are kind of your usuals, right? Staffing, patient care, hospital operations, pay. News Nation's Marcus Espinosa joins us live with more. Marcus, just, kind of bigger picture here for everybody who doesn't live in New York. Why should we care about this nurses' strike this morning?
Hey, Marky, good morning. It's a great question. Here's the thing. What happens in New York City in a situation like this could affect hospitals across the country, especially those smaller regional hospitals as well here. So a lot of folks and a lot of
Yeah, that could totally affect smaller hospitals in places like, I don't know, Kansas, because all the nurses from New York City come from Kansas. I see how this could affect Kansas. What about Oklahoma? Yep, I can see it affecting Oklahoma because they're New York City, right? California. Well, no, we're not going to talk about California. They may be next.
Institutions taking notice of what takes place, the consequences here of this strike. Both sides asking for things here. That's usually what leads to something like this. Some 15,000 nurses have walked off the job, hitting major medical centers that train nurses and doctors. They often set pay and staffing expectations that other hospital systems watch closely. The union says the core fight here is making sure nurses aren't overwhelmed with patient loads, protections from workplace violence as well. I'll get to that in a second. And higher pay. And
that's just the nature of that business.
Preserving health benefits. Hospitals say the union's overall package is too expensive and that a spokesperson called it a $3.6 billion in reckless demands. Mount Sinai says it's extreme economic demands. AP reports nurses also want limits on hospitals' use of AI. New York's governor, in fact, declared a disaster emergency ahead of the strike, citing staffing shortages and record high flu activity in recent weeks. Now, here's the thing. I just went over to that picket line.
You know why it's a record high flu? Because one, the media is telling you, oh my God, this thing is terrible. And two, they want you to stoke the fear of, oh my God, I have a cough. I'm going to go to the hospital because I think I have COVID flu. Project 2025, whatever it is that they're, Spanish flu, bird flu, swine flu.
I spoke with an ER nurse who said they don't want to be out here right now. They want to be inside that hospital serving and helping patients heal. But they said they will be on that picket line until they have to be, until their demands are met, many of which they say are, in fact, including safety and then also keeping benefits that they currently have.
We're trying to keep what we have, our healthcare benefits. They're stripping them.
Look, they're wearing red.
We're the
like
front
MAGA.
line taking care of patients of the city of New York, and they are trying to reduce our benefits and get rid of them. And we're putting our lives on the line when we go in there and take care of patients where it's extremely dangerous to work in the hospital. People are being assaulted. People are coming in with weapons. It is a dangerous environment.
So, Marky, right when 7 o'clock hit, this picket line grew, and it continues to grow here early this morning. The union has also reached a few deals with private sector hospitals and buildings and administrations like that. So some deals have gotten done, but these major hospital deals right now still at a standstill, and this is where we're at this morning, Marky.
Yeah, I talked to a nurse earlier on the show who said she's going to do this for as long as it takes. But if I had a loved one in that hospital behind you, man, would I be worried about how long this could potentially last. It's scary.
Weird on how much that has.
She was shot in her head.
Healthcare fraud. Healthcare fraud. Because that's not just Minneapolis. No. Trump is actually going against some people. The Doge cuts are going for some of the people that are in California. And guess what? They're not black and brown. But that's later.
And y'all are pretending like nothing happened. I remember when Charlie Kirk got killed. Do you? Do you remember what our response was?
Yeah,
our
I do.
response wasn't to sit there and pretend like it was okay.
We targeted people of color. And so it is unfortunate that even our colleagues could not see how harmful his rhetoric was, specifically to us.
Is it okay because you have a badge? Because the last time I checked, allegedly no one is above the law. Can y'all not just have a little bit of courage and humanity? I am asking if there is anyone that will stand for the very people that elected us.
I hate that love.
Give her an award. That was good.
Well, the Emmys were a
That
couple
was
days
good.
ago,
So
right?
it took for a lady who got pew, who got something she could have prevented.
Nope.
For y'all to cry. Are you serious?
Yes.
Where was the tears at for these women?
They were black.
What happened?
They don't care about.
Where was the tears at for these young girls who lost their lives? Nothing? No, y'all just ignored it the entire time. And this is where we are right now. And you know what's so crazy is that nobody is talking about the fact that that woman who lost her life would still be here had we not had open borders. Don't say that.
Oh, I didn't. You said it.
Don't say that. Had we not discovered that we were being robbed of billions of dollars by not only
If not,
like
trillion.
illegal people who weren't even American citizens, but government officials, we would not have to worry about ICE being in people's neighborhoods. We would not have to worry about people taking money to cause
You
problems.
also wouldn't have to worry about ICE being in your neighborhoods if jails withhold them so where the ICE agents can come get them.
For these agents being hurt or worse. As you can see, there was nothing. There was crickets. None of y'all said anything. And now you want to cry? As much as this lady talks about white people and racism, you're crying for a white woman now, huh?
I'm not.
Because she's on your side.
You're not
Because
on my
she's standing up for what you believe in.
Right.
You didn't cry for none of these white, Latino, and black women
Yeah, they don't
who
care.
lost their lives because of an issue
They don't count.
you created. Yeah, okay. Smallest violin in the world.
How dare black people come out against the killing of white people? How dare they bring up the killings against other minorities by these illegal aliens? How dare they?
Communist! Pedophile groomer!
So this is Chicago Teachers Union. You know, the one that's been siphoning a lot of Chicago's money, taxpayer dollars, to enrich people like Brandon Johnson, who, by the way, is still part of the CTU. And it's odd that he was a teacher. That's crazy to me.
80% of our students cannot even do a math problem in class. And you come to work? What a shame! What a shame!
Dang.
What a shame! CTU has become a threat to our kids. Pedophile groomer!
Look at this foot coming
You're
out.
a threat to our kids. Groomer! You're a threat to our kids. Pedophile groomer! Our kids are not even proficient in math, reading, and English. You should be ashamed to have that shirt on. Yes. You groomer! Get
Give us the CPS. Where's the sexual molestation files that you all have settled for our kids?
Look at her. That's how much power she got. Look at her.
Groomer.
Look at her.
Groomer.
Came to us.
She's harassing us.
She's harassing
us.
It's 'cause
She's
you're-
coming
Look
over
at the
here.
groomer. She's coming over here. Groomer.
CTU is a threat to our kids.
Groomer.
CTU is a threat to our kids.
Groomer.
CTU is a threat to our kids. CTU.
Remember, Chicago has a very, very high illiteracy rate.
Pedophile.
So we teach them all about DEI.
It's called freedom of speech.
Your DOJ to Chicago.
Groomer.
Mr.
Pedophile.
Bring your DOJ to Chicago.
Pedophile.
LGBTQ, leave our children alone.
You don't like for us to protest? Dictator. Communist. Dictator.
You see how they're using the left's playbook?
Communist.
They were former Democrats.
Dictator. Communist.
The hypocrisy by the CTU, aka criminal, corrupt, communist, pedophile organization funded by the taxpayer and sponsored by the Democratic Party, it's unbelievable. So these paid protesters, CTU, they feel like it's okay for them to exercise their First Amendment right. Or you see them, they call for emergency protests, all paid for, mind you. They call for emergency protests, no kings protests. They can go there in ICE officers' faces, calling them communists, calling them Nazis, calling them kidnappers, calling for the death of ICE officers, the death of Kristi Noem, hanging of Kristi Noem.
See, unlike other people in some of the communities out here, I have no filter. And I don't sugarcoat shit. I don't. She got shot because she was following an ideology that was wrong. And where did that ideology come from? Well, we're going to show you where it might have started.
They're all in the officer's face, just saying all type of horrendous things to them.
Shit.
But I guess they don't like to get a dose of their own medicine, because when you have real citizens, parents, taxpayers, not paid, and them protesting at the CTU Center, exercising their First Amendment right, somehow it seems like they don't like that. I guess she was triggered because, real parents, citizens, taxpayers, we wanted to know about the CPS files. We wanted to know how much money were we, the taxpayers, spending on settling these cases.
Remember when
CTU,
Brandon Johnson was trying to get a $30 million high interest loan from China to help with the CTU? He tried. Chicago said, that's dumb. High interest loan from China to fund the CTU. So China would have had a part in Chicago's education system? That doesn't make sense now, does it?
Molestation cases by the CPS teachers, principals, janitors, workers of CPS. How much money are we
Chicago Public
paying
Schools
for these cases that's being settled behind our backs and they're not talking about it? We wanted to know about those files, how much money. We also wanted to know what is going on with the teachers, the principals, etc., that are being accused
I'm kind of curious what their
of
salary
these
is.
sexual molestation charges. Are they going to prison, or are they just being recycled within the CPS system, CTU system? So those are the questions we needed answers to, and clearly that triggered this liberal because she felt the need to come over there. So yeah, we are just exercising our constitutional right to freedom of speech, just like you all are out here marching for and saying that these domestic terrorists that's terrorizing and doxing and doing everything they're doing to ICE.
Yo, tell me how the president of the CTU, not a teacher, makes almost $200,000 when teachers in Chicago anywhere between $86,000 to $95,000. That's pretty good, actually. What do you mean they need to get paid more?
We are just doing the same thing, exercising our right for freedom of speech to ask them questions that we want to know, that the real Chicago citizens want to know. So
the real Chicago citizens, not
Democrats on
outsiders.
Capitol Hill have been calling President Trump's actions in Venezuela into question, including our next guest. Joining us now, Senator Mark Warner is the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee. And
wait till he gets
welcome.
pressed.
You're in studio.
I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you here. I've seen a range of things. Some Democrats, I think, even acknowledge that Maduro gone is probably good.
Maduro gone, good thing.
But
Good thing.
And I don't know what. Are you concerned this could be a forever war? Or
Well, I just got to say this: we got 20% of the fleet off the coast of Venezuela. The aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford, that's supposed to be in the Middle East, is off the coast of Venezuela. You know, and I know. You know, American oil going in, it's going to take a couple years to rebuild Venezuela's oil infrastructure. Is that fleet going to stay there for 2 years? What are the costs there? Remember, the president's promised it's not going to cost us a dime. Venezuelan oil is going to pay for it all. I don't know if that's happening. Remember, it wasn't Donald Trump. I know he's your guy, but I thought he was going to be the peace. Hold it, but he was going to be the peace.
This asshole
He was
thinks.
going to be the peace.
Having our ships over on the west or eastern hemisphere is okay instead of keeping them closer to home. Thought you wanted us out of the Middle East, so why would our ships be over there when they should be back here? It seems like a retard comment.
This guy.
You know,
Hold it, but Joe,
we
let me-
know that he's not Andrew's guy.
Let me just say
I didn't say that.
My guy.
Well, let me just say this.
I'm
This
America's guy.
This guy
I'm
was
America's
not
guy.
going to intervene. We've had American intervention in Syria, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Nigeria, Venezuela, maybe Greenland, where he would blow up NATO. Did you see the Brits and the Germans are putting troops in Greenland because they want to try to send a message, don't attack Denmark, another NATO ally. How is this leading to price stability, bringing down cost, and now we got the frontal attack on the independence of the Fed?
I don't know what he's talking about. Shit here has been getting cheaper. Gas, food. Where else do you want me to start? The weed?
Okay.
What-
You probably, when Fordo and when all that was happening.
I said bombing. I said the bombing was a success. What it was not was complete obliteration of the program.
Okay, no, I understand
Which now,
that.
but Joe, the facts matter. The facts
They do,
matter.
but it is
Iran has
possible.
got a 4 to 9 month ability to rebuild their nuclear capability.
But what's happening in Iran?
But
now,
are they?
A lot of these things, whether he's lucky or whether it's some of the things that he's done, it could be a much better place.
How are they rebuilding if we took their money away again? They need to have money, and they have their own problems to worry about other than those nuclear facilities. I don't think they're going to get rebuilt anytime soon.
globally from when all of these things happened.
Iranian regime, awful.
Right.
Support for the Iranian people, absolutely. Could we put more cyber activities? Could we try to restore the internet? Last time America militarily intervened in Iran to change a government was 1953.
Right.
CIA overthrew a government there. Most historians would say that led to the Ayatollahs.
Right.
Now, I would love to see the Ayatollahs gone, but there's got to be a plan. And even with as good as our military is, who are you going to bomb in Iran?
Right.
Who are we going to bomb? The palace. The bunkers. We know where they're at. How do you suppose we maintain peace over there, Warner? You want the guys gone, but you have no plan. You're saying there's no plan. Well, you as a senator and you say there's no plan would imply that you have a plan. Why don't you say what you would do? How you would change the policy? Because you can't.
But there are good things happening in a lot of different places. Maybe he's lucky. Maybe it's in spite of things that the president does. But the world, and a lot of the wars that have been settled, I mean, Democrats have to, obviously, and I don't know whether he's my guy. I'll tell you that Tim Walz was never going to be my guy. And thank God he's not a heartbeat away from the presidency at this point.
I think he's not running again. I don't think he's
binary. It was a binary choice.
Let's just go about where we are today.
But
we got American intervention in 6 nations. We got our fleet off the coast of Venezuela.
Which one would you not?
I would love to see the Iranian regime change. Outside pressure, good. The idea that we're going to take a kinetic action that might actually rally the people back to the regime. And at the meantime, what are we doing? What is he trying to do in Greenland? Does he realize NATO ally?
Time will tell with Greenland.
He said he wanted to go in Greenland because he's concerned about Russia going into Greenland. If he's concerned about Russia, help the Ukrainian people fight back against Russia.
We have. For 5 years, nothing changed. So now, you don't want to help Venezuela, but you still want to help Ukraine. Why? Are we still funneling money over there? We just did a smoke and mirrors type deal. So you want the military in the Middle East. You want the military in Ukraine. You don't want military in the Western Hemisphere close to us, closer to our shores.
Do you think at this point the president has improved on the Biden administration's role for Israel?
I think, is Israel in a stronger position today? Absolutely. What the Israelis
is that a good thing?
I think it's absolutely a good thing. And I supported the actions against Hezbollah, against Hamas. But how is the stability of the world today? How are we viewed around the world? What are we doing with the independent? What about, we have not mentioned Jay Powell yet.
Yeah, I want to get to Jay Powell. I want to go to Jay Powell.
Let's go to.
No, I want to understand what your view is of what's happened here, whether it is a pretext, whether it isn't, whether an investigation is a fair thing to do, and what the discretion level should be for a prosecutor not to prosecute, but to investigate.
Well, investigation, fine, but he's talking about an indictment. And Trump's saying he didn't know about this. 2 weeks ago, he said Powell was going to get indicted. We saw it happen.
So you don't believe the president's saying the truth?
Let me answer the question. They tried to go after Lisa Cook. That got shot down.
Powell's getting indicted because he wasted $2.5 billion on an improvement to the Federal Reserve that hasn't moved any further than it is right now, that it has been for the past 3 years. They're moving at a snail's pace, and he's just, yep, we're getting it done. A-OK, USA.
They're now trying to go after the independence of the Fed.
The Fed should reserve.
Everybody I talk to should understand going after the independence of the Fed. It's not good for the American economy. Yeah. It's not going to bring prices down. And does anybody believe that this is anything other than political retribution? Jay Powell's a pretty calm guy. You saw his statement, pretty extraordinary.
Where do you think this plays out? Because I keep waiting for the bond markets to kind of show some big reaction. We haven't seen it yet.
I know. The question is going to be, is there anything that finally goes too far? When is enough enough? You're starting to see Republicans step up. Tom Tillis on the banking committee, I'm on the bank committee, stood up yesterday. We saw 5 Republicans step up against the actions in Venezuela. We saw 17 House Republicans stand up on health care. But at what point is enough on all of these fronts at once? I mean, I think our system can absorb only so much shock at the same time. And none of this is about bringing down costs for folks.
Well, costs are not, I mean, we want to bring down the rise in costs from where they already are, which a lot of that is obviously owned by the Biden administration. Obviously, if it was 23,
let's say it's owned by the Clinton people. How many decades back you want to go now?
23% price increases during the Biden administration. So bad, so bad that real wages fell. Real average weekly wages fell for 4 years under the Biden administration. That's why people feel like they can't get by right now. Now, inflation's still too high.
If you're selling prices are fine, the American people
I'm not selling that. I'm saying that they're never going to come
Just
down.
admit your fucking guy fucked it up. And you're benefiting from it, most likely.
They're rising more slowly. If you think affordability, blaming it on Trump is going to work, it might because he's the guy in the office. But people know when prices went up 22%.
I also know prices on health care. We've seen health care costs go up. We've seen grocery prices go up. We got a housing crisis. What is happening on housing prices?
It was 2.7% inflation the last reading, not 9% or 10% like we had.
Do you think this move to limit credit card
That
interest
10%?
rates?
Yeah, I like
when you're on the
that.
banking
It's
committee?
it's populist.
Is that a way to bring down
I don't know if you can arbitrarily.
You actually can. You can set the credit card rate. The Federal Reserve can set the credit card rate. And if you really wanted to make people get a little bit out of debt, consider the last 4 years, everybody was using credit cards because they couldn't save money. So instead of paying 24%, people would pay 10% to help get better, get ahead. And at the same time, now they'll have more money in their pocket to boost the economy. So why would that be a bad idea? We're basically telling the banks, hey, you make too much money off the people that you serve.
Set a cap like that. Is it 1 year? Is it going to be long term? How does that affect the overall?
Stupid. This guy's dumb. When I first read about this credit card thing, it starts on January 20th, by the way. It literally said in his post, it's in place for 1 year. Straight out of his mouth. So why are you questioning how long it's going to be? 1 year is a pretty good long amount of time for people to bring down that credit card debt.
Credit availability, anything we can do to, help bring down interest rates, have at it. But kind of arbitrarily picking and choosing is a little bit messing with the market.
So you'd be against that?
Listen, I've not seen any thoughtful presentation other than a 1 year freeze, how that it would be enacted.
So he's not against it. You won't say that you're not against it.
I mean, caps are bad, right? I mean, even
I'm
as
a
a Democrat.
Well, look, the president's been talking about capping buybacks, dividends. Where are you on that?
I don't think.
Dude, they're eating him
Putting
alive.
arbitrary market restrictions in place without a fulsome plan makes any sense.
What is
but
it? What without a foot? So you think there's some cases where you would tell companies not to raise dividends and not to buy back stock?
I'd say, Joe, I actually remember in the old days, like 5 years ago, 2 years ago, when the idea that the American government was going to start taking equity shares in a company like Intel, and that anybody that is going to get a grant from the state, from the feds, has to put up an equity share, I would have called that socialism. What do you?
No, you're
How is that
switching
socialism?
gears again. I'm saying that it is. Both sides are hybrid now.
Taking equity shares in American companies.
You know, with Intel, it was a grant, and people said, if you're going to have a grant, we might as well own something and be part of it.
Do you think we'll ever get TSMC?
It's the less bad of the two situations.
Do you think we'll ever get TSMC to bring the world's best technology on chip making to America if we've got a big equity share in their biggest competitor?
We obviously want to. I mean.
Bro, do you know how many fucking chip companies you already have here in the United States? One of them being NVIDIA, one of the bigger chip makers. And guess what? They do make microchips that we send to China. Remember that.
That's what the CHIPS Act was about, was trying to bring.
CHIPS Act was my bill.
Right. Okay.
John Cornyn, my bill.
So we do want to do it.
We do want to do it. And I do think, putting some kind of tail on the back end, but if the companies have made a ton of dough, but the idea of a direct equity share, come on.
I got a different question. There has been a Rorschach test pretty much over the weekend about what took place in Minneapolis, and with this ICE agent. Some people watched a shooting and said this was murder. Other people said this was self-defense. But even a larger conversation, here we are having a conversation about lawfare in the context of Jay Powell. I think a lot of people are looking at a question about lawfare in the context of something much broader vis-a-vis ICE and everything else. And what you think this actually means.
Listen, I'm old-fashioned. When an American citizen's killed by a law enforcement officer, I think there ought to be a full federal and state investigation.
You think there should be a state investigation,
I think the state has got a role to play here. I think there was an investigation, and I think we ought to not jump to...
Yo, what more investigation? When was this show? Yeah, the whole evidence has already been... What more do you need from the 13,000 different camera angles? The two agents had their fucking cameras running. Why haven't we seen the lesbian wife's fucking video camera? She was recording the whole thing. Make that one. Why don't we get her fucking video? Oh, because she's going to make $1.5 million and disappear. That's why. If she shows a video, she won't get that $1.5 million. People are going to want that money back.
Conclusions until the investigation is over. I will tell you this.
What did you see?
I will tell you this. I saw a horrifying video, but I'm not going to jump to a conclusion until we have an investigation. I'll tell you this. In Virginia, they've got a quota on how many people they've got to pick up each week. 75% of the people who've been picked up in Virginia by ICE, and I've been to the ICE facilities to see the conditions, have violated no laws at all. That is not what the president said. We're going to get the criminals off the street. I can't speak to everything in Minneapolis. I can speak to what's happening in Virginia. 75% of the people, no criminal record. Secure the border, absolutely. Have masked ICE agents picking up moms.
I don't care. You guys admit crossing the border is a crime. You guys say it's a civil matter. However, that is still a crime.
Dropping off kids or folks going to work. I don't think that's what the American people signed up for.
That is exactly
and now
what I
we've
signed
got
up
this
for.
split in city after city across America. That is not good for the sake of law enforcement. That is not good for the sake of having a rational immigration.
You would agree that going city to city to try to disrupt authorities from lawfully executing whatever their job is, disrupt, stop, obstruct what they're trying to do, that's against the law. That's not something that Democrats or anyone should be ginning up and telling people to do. Now, I know Trump has deported or sent back 350, 400,000 people. Barack Obama, your guy, as you called Trump, my guy, it was 5 million. It was 5 million over 8 years. Now we're at 350,000. What changed with Democrats on it? I know Biden let in 12 million. Is it about votes? Why did these?
Oh.
Why isn't it a crime to be here? Not that they haven't committed a crime.
The border being as open as it was under Biden was one of the reasons Trump got elected. But the idea...
So you're glad it's closed now?
Do I think we ought to not have a fully open border? Absolutely. I've said that all along.
So with the 12 million that came in, what do we do?
The question I have for you is closing the border.
No,
versus
motherfucker.
sending
You're
out
not here
ICE
to ask questions. You're here to answer questions. You're the interviewee.
agents across the country to randomly pick up people based on quotas that have committed no crime.
How did Obama deport 5 million?
Done at the border.
I think it was a lot of that was done at the border.
They were sent back.
And the truth is, I don't think the American people signed up for this.
I 100%
where
did.
you see people who are working, there ought to be a path towards legality. We've worked on that. We've screwed that up, immigration reform, for years, both sides. But the idea that we're going to send in these ICE agents, by the way, Joe, do you realize ICE used to take 5 to 6 months to get trained? They've now lowered the training period to 47 days. Why 47 days? Because Donald Trump's the 47th president.
I like
that's
it.
A rational approach.
Based.
I'm not, obviously, I'm not going to take that bait and say it's a rational approach, but
It's a fact, Joe, you can't pick your facts.
Yeah, but nothing
Senator,
you said's been fact.
At this point, There's 12 million people that are not supposed to be here. And why did that? Why was the border open? You said, oh, it shouldn't have been, and you kind of
It was
punt
the
on
same.
it.
It was for decades under Bush, Obama.
Nothing like during the Biden
Nothing like
administration, obviously.
20 plus million.
Why? What was the rationale for that? And I have seen a lot of your comments about people didn't vote for this. I don't think, obviously, Democrats didn't have a good idea what people were voting for, or you wouldn't have lost the presidency in 7 swing states and the Senate and the House. So you don't know what people were voting for. They were voting for this.
And we'll see what happens in 26 when people's costs are not going down, healthcare costs going up, housing
do you
shortage.
do you want deflation?
And American military, which is extraordinary. What we did in Venezuela, no other military in the world could.
I'm glad you can credit
But are
that.
we going to keep 20%
You're not
of our
asking
fleet off the coast
you
of
don't
Venezuela?
want deflation, do you? Do you want an actual fall in prices?
I would
Why does he
actually
keep
like
saying,
to see
are we doing that 20% of our fleet on Venezuela? He admitted he wants them over there in the Middle East. He needs them to help Ukraine. Why are you so worried suddenly about the Eastern Hemisphere? Why are you so worried about an actual war going on abroad other than an operation and now protecting our homeland and our own land? That doesn't make any sense. And neither do your fake teeth.
Stable economy that's predictable without political interference into the Fed.
How's a 5% GDP? How's a 5% GDP?
The Federal Reserve should not exist, and you know it.
American government taking pieces
How are the new
equity shares.
How are the new highs every day in the stock market and a 5% GDP? Is that good enough for you?
I thought this was a market-based show, Joe. I didn't think this was like the new, Socialist International under the Trump banner.
Okay.
What?
How's that? You didn't. How's the 5% GDP and the new highs every day in the market and the 4.4% unemployment and the 2.7%
market highs
and the
are
2.7% inflation?
Market highs are great.
Where's the chaos you're talking about in the economy?
When you take away the independence of the Fed, whether that predictability is going to be
things are pretty
so
good
far.
right. Things are pretty good right now, though. You'd acknowledge.
I'd ask you to ask the sailors who are off the coast of Venezuela, who knows how long they're going to be deployed.
I think you cannot say that.
Again, if I was in the military, especially today, and I had the chance to defend the homeland instead of defending someone else's homeland, I'd rather be off the coast of Venezuela, or stationed in Puerto Rico, or Guantanamo Bay. I mean, that makes more sense, and it costs less money. I don't know. I'm not a politician. I don't know anything.
Reports of fraud. We were just.
By the way, everybody's crying about this Somali fraud going on in Minnesota. Why aren't they picking on anybody else? Give me 1 second. Let me make sure that's actually coming up. Yeah, this should be it. Yes. Not just Minnesota, because we know that's just a small portion of it. Small portion of it. Now, think about that, that meme where you have that small iceberg, and then below you have a gigantic ice cube that makes, the meme. But the way it's showing now is Minnesota is the top, and then the balloon down, well, we all know what state that is. And fraud is not just going on in those two states, but here's the thing. Remember, they're picking on black and brown people. They're not messing with any of the white people defrauding the government.
Talking about this in major cities across the U.S. And the very latest now coming from the West Coast, where the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, claims that Russian and Armenian gangs in California are working with doctors to enroll patients into hospice. Armenian gangs in California Medicaid services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, claims that Russian and Armenian gangs in California are working with doctors to enroll patients into hospice who aren't even sick.
Oh no, healthcare fraud. Kind of like the home care centers in Minneapolis. See, everybody's just paying attention to the one group because the group actually has been taking quite a bit of money. Ilhan Omar and Tim Waltz, $9 billion. Just saying. But healthcare fraud everywhere. Everywhere. Maybe that's why healthcare companies keep raising their prices. Maybe that's why healthcare is unaffordable.
Trump administration not taking these fraud reports lightly and now cracking down harder than ever, even creating a new division within the Justice Department to help combat this. News Nation's Leah Lando joining us live with the very latest on this. And Leah, what is the Trump administration doing to try to counter this issue?
Well, they created a new division within the Department of Justice to try to crack down on this. They say that fraud has been a problem for a long time when it comes to all the government-funded programs. So they hope that this department will do a lot to put an end to it.
We've got people this morning, actually, we're going door to door to actually knock on some of these fraudulent care centers, these fraudulent social services organizations to get to the bottom of what's going on there.
The goal, it says, to crack down on fraud targeting government programs, including nonprofits, federally funded assistance programs, and more. According to the White House, federal officials will work to identify and stop sophisticated fraud schemes across the nation, prosecuting when necessary. The Department of Justice is currently investigating alleged fraud in various Minnesota programs, including the welfare program. Vice President J.D. Vance says DOJ court records show dozens of indictments tied to a single fraud network.
We have over 1,500 subpoenas that the Department of Justice has issued to get to the heart of the fraud ring. We've done almost 100 indictments.
Oh, before I forget, tomorrow, 8 a.m., Nick Shirley's releasing the next video on Minnesota fraud. Should be fun. He said expects them some fucked up shit.
Mostly Somali immigrants, but also a few others.
And this isn't just in Minnesota. Cases of alleged fraud now triggering new federal scrutiny across the country. In California, Dr. Mehmet Oz claiming Russian and Armenian gangs are working with doctors to falsify records to enroll patients into hospice who aren't sick. Dr. Oz says they've been leading these efforts and have been able to corrupt and work with doctors who are willing to lie and to use their degree as a license to kill. Dr. Oz says over $1.3 billion in federal funding was improperly spent on non-emergency care for people in the country illegally. Now he is asking why more hasn't been done to stop them.
It's not hard to actually go and visit these places if you want to. We should be asking, why haven't we already done this before?
And in New York, the Justice Department prosecuted a Brooklyn woman tied to a $68 million adult daycare and home health care fraud scheme. Now citing fraud in Minnesota, Republican state lawmakers.
It's crazy. So we've known this shit's been going on forever and ever and ever. And all of a sudden it's all coming to light because it's eventually going to come out. Like I said, all good things come to an end. It's good for them. It was bad for us. And now look, time to reap what you sow. And yes, that could go both ways. Because reap what you sow could be a good thing. Reap what you sow could be a bad thing. In this case, it's the bad thing. Huh? Common misinterpretation of that phrase. That's in the Bible, right?
Calling for an independent audit of state-run child care and elderly assistance programs. In 2024, Hochul told Bloomberg CDPAP was one of the most abused programs in state history, saying, quote, something has to give here. And a spokesperson for Hochul rejected the audit, calling this a political stunt. Meanwhile, the state says it already has measures in place to monitor these. So this Department of Justice, the new division, will wait and see exactly what it can do to crack down on these alleged fraud schemes across the nation. Natasha.
Yeah, Leah Lando live.
Last time I checked, Russians weren't black and brown. Armenians, definitely not black and brown. And it's the mob. Mob's not gone. Maybe the Italian mob. Russian mob, obviously, we know still runs California, even though they want to pretend like they don't. And Newsom, wasn't his dad a lawyer for the mob? Pretty sure if you look it up, he was a lawyer for mobsters. Hey, let's go to Minnesota. Let's go to Minnesota and a scene where I guess you shouldn't really fuck with the ICE agents because they got itchy trigger fingers. But they didn't shoot people this time. Which, okay. There's only one part about this video I don't like. And let's see if you can guess what it is. Actually, you can't. Look, it happened in the background too. Who the fuck dropped their magazine? Who the fuck dropped their magazine? But that wasn't it. That's it. What? Please tell me he picked it up. Thank God. See? That's a real American. That's a patriot. Watch the guy come up in the background. See the flag on the ground? Dude's like, nope.
What did he do? Back up! What did he do? Did you find a piece of ammo? You bent down and picked it up, you fucking loser.
It was actually a magazine.
Make sure you don't drop your fucking pants, you fucking loser. Shake that can up. Shake that can up before you fucking spray me, you fucking bitch. Come on. How much do you pay your rent, and child support? I really want to know.
Uh-oh. Who is it? They do know this is not Portland, right? These ICE agents are a little more rough. Oh, shut up. Yeah, you know you can't cross that line. Don't slip on the ice. Why are you wearing tennis shoes? Wear some Merrell, please. Fuck. Dude, I love my Merrell Nike boots. Those things are fucking warm. And they don't slip. May or may not have worn it. Look at this guy. That's a real cop. I mean, not that the ace guy. I think that's actually fine. Maybe HF5.
We're hearing flashbangs go off.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to let you do that, especially since we're hearing final warnings here that it seems like there might be more action. John, you could show that scene.
First. Oh. 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 Ooh, those are fun to throw, by the way.
We're hearing flashbangs go off.
Both the smoke and the flashbangs.
Hearing flashbangs go off. Tear gas has been deployed here outside of the Whitnall Federal Building.
Well, the squirt order was given numerous times.
Tear gas filling the streets here.
It's
as the agents move forward. Firing noisemakers, firing tear gas. I heard the telltale sign of the pepper ball guns going off. I got hit with something. My leg is hurting.
Paintballs do hurt.
Where'd you get hit, son? All right.
You know, more and more I see this, and like, if I was out there and they called me a fucking Nazi, I'm like, well, fuck, if you're gonna call me a Nazi, can I get that uniform? Huh? Huh? No? Just me? All right.
Earlier in the show, we heard lying Adam Schiff lie
Listen, I don't
telling us that
normally
Renee
watch Newsmax, but it kind of fits. Kind of fits. I mean, granted, it is a right-wing channel, but it's okay. It's okay. At least it's not Fox News.
Nicole Good was a mother who was dropping her kid off at school and was just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But last week we learned Good belonged to ICE Watch, a group that worked to document and resist ICE's crackdown in Minnesota, a group she hooked up with through her 6-year-old son's charter school. The school's website.
Wait, where was that group from?
She hooked up with through her 6-year-old son's charter school. The school's website states the school believes in social justice education with a curriculum that challenges students to think critically and take action in their communities. Through field trips and travel study, students engage with local organizations and real-world issues, deepening their understanding of social justice and inspiring them.
Why are they not in the classroom learning reading, writing, and arithmetic? Why are they out there at 6 years old going out learning social justice field trips? Who signs off on those, and what happens if going to these social justice protests turns violent? Or if they get tear gassed or flashbangs and you can't find the group of kids because you're fucking retards and all the other people out there protesting are probably fucking pedophiles and you lost half your class? That would never happen in Minecraft.
To make a positive impact. The website says what makes the school unique is putting social justice first by integrating social justice into every grade level, telling the stories of the people, not the people in power, and helping students understand history and their role in making the world a better place. Jason, one of the things that was involved in the school's mission was, say, quote, involving children in political and social activism.
Oh, that green screen.
Do you think that's the right approach for these charter schools?
Well, first of all, I thought that the right really loved charter schools. And so I think when a charter school has a mission, you have a right to say, I don't want my child to go to that school. But I also believe that parents have rights over their children's education. If they want them to learn social justice, if they want them to learn religion or what have you, they can send their children to those schools.
Well, Chris, I mean, you know, obviously in many cases with these schools, it's about hate Trump, hate ICE. It's these teachers really trying to show like even gender ideology. I mean, it goes beyond this quote unquote social justice curriculum. Do you think this is like the brainwashing of these children?
Oh, of course.
No. That's why they don't know what Nazis are. That's why. Got it.
Democrats have institutionalized this, not just in Minnesota, but across the country. And the kids that you're not focusing on reading and writing until they get to Off the Pigs and Orange Man Bad. Everybody
they used to read Animal Farm.
We've heard for decades, for generations, about how black parents in America have to have the talk. It's called the talk, but their sons when it comes to encountering the police. I think it's past time that liberal white parents in America had the talk with liberal white women and liberal white teenage girls, because they're the craziest damn people on earth right now. That you know, I mean, honestly, we should.
Whoa. You can't say liberal white women are the craziest people on this earth right now. It's a close second. It's a close second. Y'all know who the first group is. Can't say it on YouTube. It's the Jews.
Should send them to Iran to march in the streets there.
And it's not just Minnesota where the indoctrination of little kids is occurring. Here's YouTube star Ms. Rachel.
Oh, yeah.
Israeli.
Yeah, Miss Rachel. I've only heard about her, but I heard bad things. And then she shows up again. Weird.
Hating Hamas star Ms. Rachel, an Israeli hating Hamas apologist joining New York City's communist mayor Zohran Mamdani, to help him promote free childcare to 2-year-olds.
The mayor on the bus says, hello, friends, hello, friends, hello, friends. The mayor on the bus says, hello, friends, all through town.
Miss Rachel, oh my goodness, Foldy.
I actually thought you could call her MS-13 Rachel. I mean,
Yeah,
is literally the only reason that I've heard of this person, obviously I don't have kids, is because she's a terrorist-loving, mentally ill psychopath who should not be allowed near children. The video I thought, honestly, that we were going to watch is where she and Zohran are crying in the classroom, and I thought that was just a segment so that they could teach the children of New York City what is going to happen when they are set on fire by an illegal immigrant on the free buses that New York City can't afford that they want to try and happen. There's a serious problem. I mean, this is like textbook radicalization, not this specific clip. But Miss Rachel is so crazy. She would find a home. She'd have to wear a burqa and be fully covered, obviously, in Gaza, teaching little Palestinians to kill Jews.
I mean, Tiana, it goes back to, isn't woke ideology dead in these schools, or it's just always just going to be a part of where
I mean, the woke ideology, my take has always been,
You know,
it's always
we could solve all this issues in Palestine and Israel. You know what we need? And I can't believe I just remembered this. Where is the Zohan? Where is the Zohan? Disco, good. Where is the Zohan? What's up? Anyway, let's go to Hollywood just for a minute. Don't know who this fucking dude is, but I thought I'd show his face because somebody else might know who he is.
An arrest warrant has been issued for Timothy Busfield on allegations of child sex abuse in New Mexico. The actor and director is best known for his roles in Field of Dreams and the TV shows 30-something and The West Wing.
And you want to have dinner with me? No.
Oh,
Very good looking
never
guy,
watched
CJ.
that.
I mention that because not some people notice about me right away. Yes. I like seafood. I like all food. Danny? I should also mention I'm a lively conversationalist. I'm very good at kayaking.
Now the U.S. Marshal Service has joined in the hunt to locate the 68-year-old who is wanted on 2 counts of criminal sexual contact of a minor and 1 count of child abuse. The Albuquerque Police Department confirmed that its investigators are working with the U.S. Marshal Service to track down the West Wing actor's whereabouts and take him into custody in connection with the disturbing allegations. The investigation into the matter was launched in November 2024 when an officer was dispatched to the University of New Mexico Hospital after a doctor called police about suspected sexual abuse and grooming, according to court docs obtained by KOAT. An officer reportedly spoke with 2 parents who claimed that their children were actors on the Fox series The Cleaning Lady in 2024. Busfield allegedly engaged in unlawful sexual contact with a pair of 11-year-old twins while directing the Fox show, according to an arrest warrant issued on Friday. One of the alleged victims claimed the shocking incidents first started when he and his brother were 7 years old, according to the affidavit. Although the APD initially declined to press charges against Busfield, the case was said to have been reopened in September 2025 when one of the kids told the counselor and then pediatrician that Busfield touched him on his penis and bottom, the affidavit claims. The Revenge of the Nerd star also allegedly told the kids to call him Uncle Tim and tickled them on their stomachs and legs, per the arrest warrant. Busfield, who worked on the program from 2022 to 2025 as a director, allegedly grew closer to the boys during their time shooting the show together. Busfield, meanwhile, reportedly spoke to investigators by phone in November and said it was highly likely he had physical contact with the twins while filming The Cleaning Lady. "I don't remember those boys," he also said, according to the affidavit. "No, I don't. I don't remember it if it happened. I don't remember overly tickling the boys ever, but it wouldn't be uncommon for me." During that interview with police, the 30-something alum reportedly claimed that Elodie Young, the lead actress on The Cleaning Lady, told him that the twins' mom was seeking revenge because the boys were not invited back for the show's final season. Busfield has more than 700 combined credits as an actor, producer, and director in TV and film, and married Little House on the Prairie star Melissa Gilbert in 2013. In November, Gilbert made a post on Instagram against child sex abuse after Megyn Kelly commented on convicted child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Interesting.
The 61-year-old has since deleted her social media.
Why?
Gilbert is not accused of any wrongdoing. The allegations against Busfield remain under investigation.
living right under her nose. Why'd she delete it?
Yeah, we encouraged.
Does she know where he is? Seems kind of fishy. Hope they find him. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I do hope the police find him. The U.S. Marshals find him. In pieces. In pieces. Because he fell into a wood chipper. Anyway, let's go to Greenland. What do you think Greenland thinks about Donald Trump trying to acquire it? Let's listen to maybe some local politicians.
Our current government to actually have a dialogue with the U.S. government without Denmark, because Denmark is antagonizing both Greenland and the U.S. with their mediation, or what they, in the best intention probably, is trying to derail any talks about independence. So I've encouraged our government to actually have a talk with the American government. Well, I've said it for a year now. They should butt out our Greenlandic affairs, because they're escalating the situation.
You may have, Yeti. You may have. Sorry. My ADD kicked in.
They keep claiming that Greenland belongs to the Greenlandic people when everybody else is listening. And the next moment you hear them talking about the integrity of their territory, the kingdom's territorial integrity, which means they just reduced us to lines on a map instead of a people. So I don't know why the Danes keep getting offended by something that is said in the US, because it has nothing to do with them. I think this government needs to stop hiding and think they can let times just pass by and keep the status quo, because everybody in the world now wants to know what is the Greenlandic position on independence, not being owned by US, not being owned by Denmark. And you cannot keep hiding from the press forever. So I hope they would listen to it and actually seek dialogue with the US administration. The politicians dating back to before our home rule has promised independence to our people. And for some reason or the other, they keep postponing it. They figure out a way to delay it. Our political party was founded on the idea that enough is enough. Let's give the people what they want. Not just with regards to independence, but self-determination and empowerment. So our party is not just about independence, but it's one of the goals that we have set. We have a plan for it, and we know also how to execute it, should we get the mandate from the people.
Weird, because I think I showed you a video, an interview that Nick Shirley did 7-8 months ago. A lot of the younger people want it. A lot of the older people don't. But then at the same time, shouldn't they vote on it? There's about 30,000 people on Greenland. Couldn't they? I think it's all in how it's perceived. Because the talks I gave my kids were definitely, hey, look at this. Now let's see if you fucking think you're right. You're right, Dad. You're right. But, yeah, 30,000 people. Why can't they vote on whether or not they want to be their own, or if they want to stay part of Denmark? Right? And granted, that's the opposition leader, still a politician that has some backing behind him. You could do the vote. Just give it a week. Do the whole vote in a week. No, that's too much time. Give them 2 days to vote. Right? And then let's see what happens. And then let's get rid of NATO after that. We don't need them anymore. They need us, but we don't need them. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say.
Mr. President.
Senator from Tennessee.
Yes, I know her voice is annoying, but we need to listen.
Mr. President, I have two requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Duly
Thank you,
noted.
Mr. President. I think we're all pleased to be back with a new year and hard at work. And one of the things that has really captured the attention of the American people in this new year is the amount of fraud that has been uncovered in Minnesota. And what we have learned is that now the total has climbed to $9 billion, still rising. And it's important to note that is all stolen taxpayer money. Now, it is so interesting that this big theft was uncovered by a young, independent journalist who really blew the story
Nicholas
open
Shirley.
when he started visiting child care centers, following a lead, visiting these child care centers in Minneapolis. And despite these centers having pulled in tens of millions of taxpayer dollars, the child care centers were actually empty. There were no children. There were no cars in the parking lot. And
They were
usually
invisible,
not even any staff to come answer the door. These were visits that were made during the day when one would assume that children and their caretakers would be present in the facility. Now, we know, and what we are learning is that this child care fraud scheme is just one part of a widespread fraud operation taking place in Minnesota.
And the country.
Under state Democrats, billions of taxpayer dollars were stolen by front groups that pretended.
Listen, let's not forget. I'm not just going to say, hey, what about these Democrats? I do have a certain person who's, I would love to know where he went from, mediocre pay to $30 million. Dan, where did you get your money? Maybe you should renegotiate with Sean and do the interview. Or sue him so you have to show where you got the money.
They were providing social services, but they padded their pockets. They basically took this money from vulnerable individuals, programs that were intended for children, for the elderly, for individuals with autism.
I'm sorry?
So basically, they were robbing the taxpayer, padding their pockets,
But they were also faking
all
autism
of
diagnoses.
this money that was intended for vulnerable citizens. Now, the Trump administration has targeted this fraud network, and they've been working on this for several months. They're bringing dozens of criminal indictments, and the list of these alleged crimes is staggering. And Mr. President, I think the list grows every day, and that is one thing that is shocking to people. But what you have is tens of millions of dollars that were stolen through Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services program. The money was appropriated, the money was sent from the federal government to the state of Minnesota, and poof, it is gone into pockets, not into programs. Now, the Housing Stabilization Program was meant to help people with disabilities, but yet what you had was these scammers come in and take most of that money. Millions more were stolen through the state's Feeding Our Future program. Now, here the fraudsters.
That guy got charged. I don't know if he made it out of state or not. However, he has been known to be supporters and helpers, financial backers for not only Tim Walz, but his countryman, Ilhan Omar Abrego Garcia. Ilhan Omar Abrego Garcia. Look at that. Look what I just did there.
Claimed that they were providing thousands of meals every day for needy children. Instead, what we are learning, they weren't providing those thousands of meals. They were spending your hard-earned tax dollars on luxury vehicles and on pricey real estate. And yet millions more were stolen by a single woman who paid parents to enroll their children in her fraudulent autism therapy program.
Ooh, who's this?
Even though most of those children had never been diagnosed with autism. I know that Tennesseans, and indeed I'm sure many Americans across the country, are wondering how in the world could this possibly happen? And Mr. President, one of the things I have heard from Tennesseans most on is this fraud issue, because they can't believe nobody ever noticed. We're talking $9 billion in fraud and climbing. One state.
However, they did notice there's reports throughout the past 5 years, 6 years, 7 years showing this fraud. But they get looked upon and then disappeared. Especially Minneapolis and these daycare centers.
Well, we know that the answer to this, what we're learning is, most of this fraud was committed by members of Minnesota's Somali community. And that community is closely tied to the state's Democratic machine, and it appears that there were some Democrats who chose to look the other way, and they allowed this to happen. Meanwhile, the Biden administration poured gas on the fire, eliminating safeguards that were meant to stop waste, fraud, and abuse of your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. Now, in 2024, the Joe Biden administration scrapped a rule that required child care centers to verify that kids actually attended their facilities in order to receive federal funding. Now, think about this. They remove the provision that says you've got to tell us you are actually enrolling children in your child care center. So what does that do? That
No, you just
invites
gotta believe him,
fraud.
guys. Just believe
In
him.
total, his administration paid out more than $19 billion to daycare centers without having any verification that that child care center had children. $19 billion to daycare centers. So thankfully, President Trump and his administration are working to ensure that these fraudsters face justice and that something like this can never happen again. Right now, you have federal authorities on the ground in Minnesota working to identify and arrest these criminals who have defrauded the federal government and the U.S. taxpayer. President Trump has also frozen more than $10 billion in federal funding for social service programs to Minnesota and other states, California, Colorado, Illinois, and New York, where there are fraud investigations. The president's message is quite clear.
Are there any fraud investigations
If
in
these
Tennessee?
states want to see a dime of federal taxpayer dollars, they must prove that they have put in place some safeguards to prevent fraud. Common sense. If you're going to take this federal money at your state, for goodness sakes, put some safeguards in place so that you know whomever is receiving the money is going to use the money as intended, that they will meet the deliverable, that they will show their outcomes. Now, I think it's so interesting that in Minnesota, with the spotlight on that state, Governor Tim Walz has announced he's not going to seek re-election for that job. He's dropping out of the race, and Minnesotans deserve an immediate resignation from him. And we are hearing he says he will not do that. Now,
COVID.
We know,
healthcare,
Mr.
medical.
President, that this issue goes far beyond Minnesota. Just last month, California's nonpartisan auditor found that 8 state agencies have a high risk of waste, fraud, and abuse, yet they have taken zero corrective action, no corrective action. Across the board, the state is at risk of losing billions to fraud in food assistance, unemployment benefits, and with the state's Medicaid program. In New York, Republican lawmakers are calling for an independent audit of the state's spending following several fraud scandals. In one case,
I don't understand why Democrats are so against finding the fraud and investigating it. Isn't that what both sides elected them to do, I thought? Finding and eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse?
scammers in Brooklyn used 2 adult daycare facilities to steal, get this, $68 million in taxpayer money from the state's Medicaid home care program. A state comptroller's audit also revealed that the state provided more than $500 million in Medicaid benefits to out-of-state residents. If you live in New York and you are getting benefits through the Medicaid program and you find out that $500 million has been used to provide benefits for people that are not even residents of the state, you ought to be asking questions.
What if they're illegal?
In Illinois, the state's Auditor General found that the government paid out more than $5 billion in fraudulent unemployment insurance. Well, you know what? They didn't do a thing about it. And last month, the Trump administration indicted 2 men outside Chicago who submitted nearly $300 million in fraudulent claims to Medicare and Medicaid, as well as to private insurers. And this week in Mississippi, a trial started for a man who faces charges from the Justice Department for allegedly participating in a scheme to steal $77 million in federal aid intended for needy families. Instead, the scammers spent the money on luxury vehicles, investments, private schools, and more. While President Trump works to end this abuse of taxpayer dollars, Congress should do everything possible to support his efforts. This week, I'm introducing the Fraud Accountability Act, which would amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to explicitly make clear that fraud is a deportable offense.
What?
If you come to our country to steal from...
Shouldn't fraud be a deportable offense? You're not an American and you're committing fraud and taxpayer dollars. Yeah, definitely a deportable offense.
The American people, you ought to be deported. And if you've somehow gained American citizenship, you should be stripped of it.
Yes.
Every single member of this chamber should support this legislation.
This case?
I hope they do. Don't you? No.
about this fraud as it was occurring. About this fraud as it were fraud as it ain't right.
Social services program. Minnesota social services, which are funded by you, the American taxpayer, are being ripped off. The most vulnerable are suffering as a result. Federal prosecutors estimate that these criminals have stolen at least $9 billion. The fraudsters, many of whom are from Minnesota's Somali community, have stolen from programs meant to feed needy kids, provide services to autistic children, house low-income and disabled Americans, and provide health care to vulnerable Medicaid recipients. Fraudsters like these take millions to enrich themselves while providing nothing, overstating or outright faking the services. How many children have gone hungry because fraudsters stole money that was intended to provide them with food? How many autistic children were denied services because fraudsters instead sent this money overseas? How many low-income seniors, people with disabilities, or those with mental illnesses were denied access to housing because fraudsters drained resources and pocketed the money for themselves?
Dirtbags.
The breadth and depth of this fraud is breathtaking. And I fear that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Thank you, Chairman Comer, for holding this important hearing. As I said on Monday, good riddance to Governor Walz, but he cannot escape accountability for the estimated $9 billion in fraud. How did this happen? And where the hell has the Twin Cities media been? The Star Tribune is complicit. They have had this story for years, if you just heard, and they've refused to report anything on it. In fact, they continue to try and cover up. Our Minnesota Republican colleagues have demanded answers and accountability for years, but have seen nothing from Walz, his administration, our Democrat colleagues like Tina Smith, Amy Klobuchar, Ilhan Omar, and Angie Craig, or the worthless Star Tribune. Thank God for President Donald J. Trump for finally bringing attention to this issue. Representative Rarick, I'm going to begin with you. You've been working on this issue for years. You've spoken to the whistleblowers personally. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You have an understanding that 1,000 whistleblowers running an account on X have come forward to expose fraud in Minnesota state agencies, and they have been entirely ignored by Tim Walz and have even been retaliated against. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Even this morning, I got another message.
Well, in your experience, are their claims credible, or are they politically motivated against Walz?
They are completely credible, not politically motivated.
In fact, many of these are Walz administration employees, correct?
They are actually Democrats as well.
Can you quickly give us one example of the retaliation these folks have been facing?
Yes, I can. In my opening statement, I mentioned that the most severe ones was that they would be fired with cause, so they couldn't have unemployment insurance, that they would be blacklisted from all state agencies, and I bet that it's also Hennepin County and Ramsey County, as you know, those are Democrat-run, and much, much more.
Based on what you've learned, Representative, over the last several years, do you have any doubt that Governor Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
He absolutely knew that it was occurring.
Thank you. The Housing Stability Services Program was estimated to cost about $2.6 million per year, but before it was shut down last October, it was on track to run about $122 million in 2025. In fact, I think they sucked $161 million out of it from the point it started in 2020 until it was finally shut down. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, and Joe Thompson believes that 90% of that was fraud.
Yeah. The Quality Leering Center, as uncovered by Nick Shirley, received almost $10 million in funding. Is that accurate?
I believe it is.
There are more than 80 autism centers in Minnesota under investigation. Is that true?
I believe it is, yes.
It's clear that someone is criminally complicit. You can't just let this amount of money get out of your administration over a period of 7 years without knowing. There was a hearing in the state regarding the fraudulent housing stabilization program, but before that hearing, Governor Walz fired the official who was slated to testify so that they could not testify and expose what was happening under Governor Walz's watch. Has Governor Walz or Attorney General Ellison fired anyone else to your knowledge, Representative?
Not to my knowledge, and that was Eric Rumdahl, and his administration believes that he was not fired, but I say he was fired because it was too convenient.
Great. Representative Hudson, is it true that 90% of the individuals charged, regardless of what your colleague on the panel just said with his facts and figures, 90% of the individuals charged or indicted with the $250 million Feeding Our Future COVID fraud are of Somali descent?
I believe that to be correct.
Are you aware that in a 2021 video, Mr. Ellison promised that he would obstruct his own agencies in their investigation of Somali fraud?
I am very much aware of that.
It's no wonder that criminals in the Somali community felt they were free to steal taxpayer dollars. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Marion. Do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
Walz and Ellison were protecting fraudsters instead of investigating them, and it was purposeful. And it's no coincidence that this is occurring largely in the Somali community. Walz made a sanctuary state, Minnesota, a sanctuary state. He gave free health care, free college, and free licenses to illegals. And Walz looked the other way when Somali immigrants were stealing. Representative Robbins, do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
So all three of you have no doubt in your minds that Tim Walz knew about the $9 billion of fraud during his tenure as governor and did nothing about it. It looks like my time is about to expire, and I do want to say to all of you, on behalf of Minnesota, thank you for being here, and justice will be served.
Relax, old man. Relax. You got a little bit excited there. You know who doesn't get excited? Well, unless you piss him off. This guy, who's going to be running for governor of Florida. Huh.
Chair now recognizes Byron Donalds from the great state of Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. Before we begin, I have a letter to submit for the record titled Collective Request for Congressional Oversight, Systematic Retaliation and Governance Failure at the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Chairman, this letter was written by the whistleblowers and has been provided to the committee. I want to submit that for the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Ms. Rarick, first of all, thank you for your service to the state of Minnesota. I want to refer back to your commentary about a meeting where the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Minnesota, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, came and admonished these whistleblowers. Can you go into more detail about what was said in this meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Congressman. So I don't have any more detail other than what I read into the record. Unfortunately, it was obviously a public meeting, and there were hundreds of DHS employees, so Department of Human Services employees there. It was a story that's been reported multiple times on the X page, but I don't have any more details than that, other than the fact that that wasn't the only time that she retaliated.
Do you think that the Lieutenant Governor was operating outside of the purview of Governor Walz?
So it's interesting, the timing, and it was before he ran as the vice president, and so she was completely almost tied at the hip with Governor Walz at that time in history.
I think it's important for people to understand that in virtually every state in the country, the Lieutenant Governor is essentially chosen by the governor. And so Lieutenant Governors typically do not operate outside of the purview of the governor. It's kind of their job to, play QB2, if you will, to the governor. So would it be clear to state that the Lieutenant Governor's comments trying to railroad whistleblowers, trying to demean whistleblowers and discourage whistleblowers was at the directive of Governor Walz?
You can definitely assume that because, like I said, at that moment in time, up until the point where the governor ran for VP, she was seen at literally every press conference. She was in all the meetings. They were tied at the hip. They were always together. So if she was saying it, he had approved it. I'm certain of it.
Well, I guess you could say she's kind of a knucklehead, too. Moving on, the list of programs in the fraud in Minnesota are rampant. You have the Child Care Assistance Program. You have the Feeding Our Future. You have the Housing Stabilization Services. You have the Early Intensive Development and Behavioral Intervention. You have Integrated Community Supports. Ms. Robbins, you're the chair of the investigative committee. The depth of fraud that you have seen, were there controls in place in the state of Minnesota that could have prevented this fraud? And were these controls ignored by the Walz administration and by the Department of Human Services?
Absolutely. So we have many whistleblower reports talking about how DHS undermined ability to strengthen internal controls. So, for example, there was an effort for the Child Care Assistance Program. They have a clear and convincing evidence standard to disqualify someone from being a provider, where all the other programs are a lower standard, preponderance of the evidence. There was an effort to make this a lower standard so it was easier to disqualify people to preponderance, and the Minnesota Minority Child Care Association, which was run by a group of Somali providers, opposed it, and DHS went along with their recommendation. And in a similar vein, we were trying to reduce the number of child care employees with children that could work in these child care centers, because that was one of the vectors of fraud,
Right.
and they opposed that.
So you had the Somali community who on purpose was petitioning the state of Minnesota to lower the standards to be able to make sure that fraud could not be caught. Is that correct?
Well, they wanted to keep the standard clear and convincing, which makes it harder to disqualify people.
So it makes it harder for them to be disqualified from wasting taxpayer funds. Is that
Absolutely.
correct? Okay. Ms. Robbins, I want to stay with you. I want to talk about use of funds. You've talked about some of these funds were used to buy property in Kenya.
Yes, sir.
Property in Turkey. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Remittances back to Somalia.
Yes.
I think it's important for the committee to understand that these remittances in part are used in what's called the Hawala. I want to make sure I have the terminology right. The Hawala network. Ms. Robbins, can you speak to what the Hawala network is?
Yes, so it's an informal network where someone goes to a Hawala place in Minneapolis, which is like a...
If this is the Hawala I'm thinking about, bro, I don't know how the fuck they get away with it.
A money exchange or a money sending site, and they say, I want to send X amount of dollars, and then there's a receiving site in Somalia, and they put the cash, take the cash out. So money doesn't cross the border. It's an order for money here that gets transmitted to Somalia.
For the time, because I'm out of time, I want to expound. In Somalia and other parts in the Middle East region writ large, a Hawala network is a bunch of money exchangers, hand to hand, not bank account to bank account.
Exactly.
And what is clear in Somalia and other parts is that Al-Shabaab, the largest Al-Qaeda affiliate in Somalia, they have their hands all through this network. So taxpayer money, United States dollars, that are being remitted into Somalia in parts have been utilized or have fell into the hands of Al-Shabaab. Do you think that's a correct assessment?
Yes, we have plenty of evidence of that, from money directly going to Al-Shabaab, but then also indirectly because they take a cut of whatever gets sent to Somalia.
Thank you.
Well, no shit. How do you think they get their money, extra money? All right, I think that's actually it. It is actually it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed the daily, weekly, Where It Begins. Did I change the title yet? I don't remember what I changed it to. But anyway, hope you got something out of this, and a little bit of laugh, and a little bit of anger, and a little bit of everything. Because I'm not telling you how to think. Or am I? Or am I? You ever think about that? Nah. I'm just telling you to think, because that's the way it should be. Remember, we always ask, why? And our parents told us, shut up, don't ask questions. Why? You know why. No, as a matter of fact, I don't know why. You should probably tell me. Not if I go to your room, I beat your ass. Right, I don't feel like getting my ass beat, so